3 million vehicles repossessed in 2025.
Car repossessions are at their highest level since the Great Recession, with millions of Americans losing their vehicles.
The worst number since the Great Recession. Not because Americans stopped buying trucks, but because a $66,000 price tag, 7 years of payments, and a system designed to make sure you never see the real numbers until it's too late, finally broke the math. This is how the American dealership turned the pickup truck into a debt trap, and why that trap is now collapsing. In January 2020, the average transaction price for a full-size pickup truck in America was just over $50,000. By January 2026, that number hit $66,102. That's a 32% increase in 6 years. Not on a luxury sedan, not on a sports car, on the vehicle more Americans buy than any other. To understand how that happened, you have to go back to 1964. That year, the Johnson administration imposed a 25% tariff on imported light trucks. It was retaliation. France and Germany had slapped tariffs on American chicken, and Johnson needed a response that would also keep the United Auto Workers happy during an election year. The tariff was supposed to be temporary. 62 years later, it's still in place, and it is the single most important reason American trucks cost what they do. Here's what the chicken tax means in practice. A foreign automaker that wants to sell a pickup in America has two choices: ship it from overseas and eat a 25% price penalty, or build it domestically and absorb the cost of American labor and facilities. Toyota builds the Tundra in San Antonio. Nissan builds the Frontier in Canton, Mississippi. They have to. Which means the only real competition in the American truck market is between 3 domestic players: Ford, GM, and Stellantis, all of whom benefit from keeping prices high. There's no incentive to undercut. There's no one forcing their hand. And so prices only move in one direction. The Ford F-150 starts at $38,000 on paper. But that number is a ghost. 5 of its 8 trim levels cost over $65,000 once you factor in mandatory destination fees and standard equipment packages. The base model, the one in the advertisements, accounts for a tiny fraction of actual sales. The truck most Americans drive off the lot is a Lariat, a King Ranch, or a Platinum. Those start north of $60,000 before a single option is checked. The Silverado follows the same playbook. So does the Ram 1500. Base prices look competitive. Transaction prices tell a different story. GM and Stellantis have both leaned into high-margin trims, pushing leather interiors, premium audio, and oversized touchscreens into what used to be a workhorse vehicle. The pickup truck was once the cheapest way to get a capable vehicle in America. Now it's one of the most expensive. Think about what that transformation actually means. In the 1990s, even the most expensive F-150 on the lot cost under $25,000. You could buy one with a couple years of savings and drive it for a decade. It was a tool. You threw lumber in the bed and didn't worry about scratching the paint. Today, the average full-size pickup costs more than the median American household earns in a year. More than most people's first house cost a generation ago. And the trucks themselves have changed to justify that price. Heated and ventilated seats, 12-inch touchscreens, adaptive cruise control, panoramic sunroofs. Features that belong in a luxury sedan, bolted onto a vehicle that's still advertised with footage of muddy job sites and hay bales. The marketing says work truck. The price tag says German luxury car. When I was a kid, my dad drove the same truck for 12 years. Bought it used, ran it until the odometer didn't work anymore. That truck cost less than the interest alone on an average truck loan today. And here's the scale of what that's created. In December 2025, Americans bought over 233,000 full-size pickups in a single month, the best month for the segment in 5 years. Combined revenue from those sales topped $15 billion in 1 month. The average manufacturer's suggested retail price for all new vehicles, not just trucks, has been above $50,000 for 8 consecutive months. Trucks are the engine driving that average higher. $15 billion flowing through a market protected by a 62-year-old tariff, controlled by 3 manufacturers with no reason to compete on price. That's not a vehicle category. That's a financial instrument. And the only way to keep it running is to make sure buyers can keep signing, even when the sticker price should have stopped them years ago, which is exactly what the lending market was redesigned to do. In 2015, only 7.3% of new car buyers signed an 84-month loan. By the second quarter of 2025, that number hit 22%, an all-time record, nearly tripled in a decade. More than 1 in 5 new car buyers now commit to 7 full years of monthly payments on a depreciating asset, and the average auto loan term across all buyers has climbed to 69 months. That's not a blip. That's a structural transformation of how Americans pay for vehicles. And it didn't happen by accident. When truck prices climbed past what most buyers could finance in 60 months, the industry had a choice: lower prices or stretch the loans. They stretched the loans. Some lenders now offer 96-month terms, 8 full years. The monthly payment drops just enough to keep buyers signing, while the total cost of ownership explodes. The math on those loans is devastating. The average 84-month truck loan carries a financed amount of nearly $51,000 at 8.1% interest. Monthly payment, $797. Total interest over the life of the loan, almost $16,000. By the time the buyer makes the last payment in 2032 or 2033, they'll have spent close to $67,000 on a truck that's worth maybe $12,000 to $15,000. But the interest cost isn't even the most dangerous part. The real trap is negative equity. A new full-size pickup loses roughly a third of its value in the first 3 years. On an 84-month loan with a minimal down payment, which is exactly what longer terms encourage because the monthly number looks lower, the buyer is underwater almost immediately. They owe more than the truck is worth from month 3 onward, and they stay there for years. If anything disrupts the payment schedule during that window, a layoff, a divorce, a blown transmission, they can't sell the truck to get out. The loan is a cage, and most buyers don't realize they've stepped into it until the door is already shut. A buddy of mine found this out the hard way. Bought a Ram 1500 in 2022. 84 months, minimal down payment. 2 years later, he needed to sell. The dealer told him he owed $11,000 more than the truck was worth. He didn't make a bad deal. He made the only deal that was available. And it gets worse. 1 in 4 car buyers in America is now rolling negative equity from a previous vehicle into their new loan. That means they start their new 84-month term already owing thousands more than the truck is worth before they've driven a single mile. They're not buying a truck. They're refinancing a loss and stacking $66,000 on top of it. Multiply that across the entire market and the scale becomes staggering. Americans now carry over $1.66 trillion in total auto loan debt. More than 100 million people have an active car loan. That's not a consumer market. That's a debt bubble built on vehicles that lose value every single day. Then there are the costs nobody mentions at the dealership: insurance, fuel, maintenance, repairs, registration, taxes. The average American spends $575 a month on these hidden ownership expenses, and that's before the loan payment. Add the two together, and the real monthly cost of owning a full-size truck is closer to $1,400 for a vehicle that's still marketed as a practical work tool. But the monthly payment and the ownership costs are only 2/3 of the equation. There's a room you're walked into after you've agreed on the price, and what happens inside it is where the dealership makes its real money. Most people assume the dealership makes its money selling you the truck. They don't. The average profit margin on a new vehicle sale is between 1% and 2%. On a $25,000 car, that's somewhere between $250 and $500. After overhead, floor plan interest, lot maintenance, and sales commissions, that margin is razor thin. On mini deals, the vehicle itself barely breaks even. It's a loss leader, the thing that gets you into the building so they can make money on everything else. The real revenue engine is the finance and insurance office, known in the industry as F&I. This is the last room you sit in before getting your keys. You've already negotiated the price. You've shaken hands with the salesperson. You think the hard part is over. It isn't. It's just beginning. F&I has 3 primary revenue streams, and every one of them is designed to increase what you pay without you fully understanding how much more you're spending. The first is interest rate markup. When a dealership submits your credit application to lenders, they respond with what's called the buy rate, the actual interest rate your credit profile qualifies for. The dealership is legally allowed to mark that rate up and keep the spread as profit. If you qualify for 5%, they might sell you the loan at 7%. You never see the buy rate. You only see their number. And on a $51,000 loan stretched over 84 months, that 2-point spread is worth thousands of dollars. The second stream is add-on products, extended warranties, paint protection, ceramic coating, fabric sealant, gap insurance, tire and wheel coverage, window etching. These are sourced from third-party providers at wholesale cost and resold in the F&I office at enormous margins. The average profit on dealer add-ons is 170%. A service contract the dealer buys for $300 gets sold to you for $800. Some items are worse. Window etching, which is essentially scratching your VIN into the glass, a process that costs the dealer almost nothing, $300 for something a $15 kit from Amazon could do. And because the pricing varies not just between dealerships, but between individual customers at the same dealership, studies have found that the system enables discrimination. Hispanic buyers in Florida, for example, were shown to face consistently higher percentage markups on add-ons than non-Hispanic buyers at the same stores. The third technique is the most insidious, and it's the one that ties the entire system together. It's called payment packing. The F&I manager asks one question: how much can you afford per month? Say you answer $600. What you don't know is that the lender already approved you at $480. That leaves $120 of space in your stated budget. The F&I manager fills that gap with products. A warranty here, gap insurance there, maybe paint protection, folded into the monthly payment across 84 months, so the individual line items disappear. You never see them as separate charges. You just see a monthly payment that happens to match what you said you could afford. You walk out thinking you negotiated a fair deal. You didn't. You paid for a truck, plus thousands of dollars in products you didn't ask for, financed at an interest rate higher than the one you actually qualified for. And none of this is illegal. Rate markups are permitted. Add-on pricing is at the dealer's discretion. Payment packing operates in a gray zone that regulators have struggled to address for decades. The system isn't broken. It's working exactly as it was designed to work. And for a long time, it worked beautifully. Buyers signed, made their payments, traded in every 5 or 6 years, and did the whole thing again. But starting in 2024, something cracked. And by 2025, the crack was impossible to ignore. By the fourth quarter of 2025, 90-day auto loan delinquency hit 5.2% of all outstanding auto debt. The all-time record was 5.3%, set in the fourth quarter of 2010, the deepest point of the Great Recession. America is 1/10 of a percentage point away from matching it. Among subprime borrowers, the picture is worse. 6.43% of subprime auto loans were 60 or more days past due in 2025, the highest rate in over 30 years of tracking. Auto loans are now, excluding student debt, the single riskiest consumer credit product in America. Riskier than credit cards, riskier than personal loans, riskier than home equity lines of credit. The repossessions followed. 3 million vehicles were taken back by lenders in 2025, matching the peak of the Great Recession. Repossession assignments, the authorizations lenders send to recovery agencies, topped 10.5 million for the year. That means for every vehicle actually recovered, roughly 3 more were flagged for potential repossession. Behind each of those numbers is a person who lost the vehicle they needed to get to work, to pick up their kids, to hold the basic architecture of their daily life together. The damage is now ripping through the industry itself. In September 2025, Tricolor Holdings filed for Chapter 7 bankruptcy. Not a restructuring, not a pause, but full liquidation. Tricolor was the 7th largest independent used car chain in the country. They'd built their entire business on selling refurbished vehicles to buyers with poor or no credit, frequently at interest rates above 20%. When those buyers stopped paying, the whole model vaporized. 6 months later, in April 2026, America's CarMart announced it would close 42 dealerships in a single week, dropping from 136 locations to 94 across 12 states. In the quarter before that, they'd already shuttered 18. These aren't isolated closures. They're the front edge of a structural collapse in the buy here, pay here segment of American auto retail. And the pain doesn't stop at the dealership door. When a truck gets repossessed, the borrower doesn't just lose the vehicle. Their credit score craters, which means their insurance rates spike. Drivers with poor credit already pay nearly double the average for full coverage. They still owe whatever balance remains after the lender auctions the truck, often for a fraction of what's owed. And in most of America, losing your vehicle means losing your ability to get to work. There is no subway. There is no bus. There's a truck payment, or there's nothing. That's the leverage the entire system runs on. But here's the number that should fundamentally change how you think about all of this. In 2024, the average household income of someone calling a nonprofit debt counseling organization for help with auto payments was $50,000 a year. By 2025, that average jumped to $75,000. That's a 50% increase in a single year. The number of calls itself surged from 33,000 across all of 2019 to 54,000 by October 2025. And the year wasn't even over. Think about what those two numbers mean together. It's not just that more people are calling for help, it's that the people calling earn more. The crisis has climbed the income ladder. These aren't subprime borrowers. These aren't people who took out loans they couldn't understand. These are Americans making $75,000 a year. Teachers, project managers, electricians, nurses, who did exactly what the system was designed to make them do. They walked into a dealership, they sat down in the finance office. They heard a monthly number that sounded manageable, and they signed. The truck was $66,000. The loan was 84 months. The add-ons were packed in. The rate was marked up. And the math held. Right up until it didn't. That's the real story. The American dealership model was never built to help you buy a truck. It was built to maximize what could be extracted per transaction, to turn a $50,000 vehicle into a $70,000 revenue event, stretched across 7 years of payments you'd never fully understand. It worked for decades because the true cost was buried inside monthly installments and back-office markups and products nobody asked for. But 3 million repossessions in a single year means 3 million Americans who now understand exactly how that system works. They didn't read about it. They lived it. They watched the tow truck pull their F-150 out of the driveway at 6 in the morning. And they're not walking back into the same dealership to sign the same papers. 3 million Americans learned what their truck actually costs in 2025. The question is, what happens when the next 3 million do the math before they sign? Speaking of doing the math, 3 million Americans just lost their trucks. But there's a bigger question nobody's asking. What happens to the road itself? Tesla has a plan for that too. And it could kill the American highway as we know it. That video is right here.